What's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here, and we're gonna react to everything we've seen thus far for Mafia: The Old Country. If you don't know, they recently dropped like a new gameplay trailer, so we're gonna take a look at that, take a look at what the developers have to say about it, and then also just look back at previous footage. So let's take a look.
Come in.
Bravery is not common in this world, Enzo. Loyalty, honor, obedience.
We got horseback
They
riding.
set the man apart from the rest. You took care of Messina, but this matter is not yet resolved. Will you help me bring it to a close?
Stealth.
Of course. And Torrisi.
Got the knife kills. Got knife toss. Revolver. Fire. Got your driving, of course. Old school cars, which that's gonna feel great. Yes, it looks gorgeous. Cool. It's a really good, like, cinematic action game, you know?
You again.
Woo! Close. So yeah, you can pre-order now. Looking forward to checking this out. This will be on Steam, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S. Of course, you got pre-order stuff right there. Looks cool. So, let's check out the developer insights here. We don't have a whole lot to look at today, but I really like hearing from the developers of what they think of their game. I love stuff like dev diaries and things like that.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick Baines, president of
Check
Hangar
it out.
13. We hope you enjoyed this new look at gameplay in Mafia: The Old Country. We're just 3 short months
Mafia.
away now from getting this game in your hands, and we can't wait. Mafia: The Old Country is an origin story for the Mafia universe, and as such, is both a step forward and a return to the fundamentals of the franchise. The heart of Mafia has always been deep, immersive storytelling,
Very
and Mafia:
true.
The Old Country is no exception. It's a premium experience in the vein of early Mafia games, with a linear narrative set against the stunning, authentic backdrop of 1900 Sicily. That
Looks
focus
gorgeous.
has allowed us to deliver a classic organised crime drama in the period-authentic Mafia rules and traditions of the era.
That's
And
what we
as you
need.
just saw,
Back
we've
to
made
the
some
roots.
exciting gameplay updates. Whether you're using a knife or a gun, using stealth or in a shootout, this is brutal and grounded in all the best ways.
Shoot the
It's all going
lantern,
to
yeah.
pull you in from every angle, pushing the franchise forward in a location and time painstakingly created with the utmost authenticity and detail using Unreal Engine 5. Stick around, because next up is our development team, who have loads of awesome behind-the-scenes insights on how we brought this title to life. And stay tuned between now and August, as we'll have even more to tell and show. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Come in.
Our top goal for every Mafia game is to deliver the promise to a player that you're going to play a classic mob movie. Mafia: The Old Country is a linear crime drama set against a beautiful Sicilian backdrop. The first step for us was to make sure that we were nailing all of the things that players expect from a Mafia game. The quality of its storytelling.
Let me tell you, like, the one thing that I'm, like, worried about, and
Is a linear crime drama set against a beautiful Sicilian backdrop.
is like, what if, like, there's obviously cities and stuff, but, like, what if it's kind of like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where it's like there's not a lot of city stuff, like it's really just mostly open countryside and just like nothing really exciting to see. Like, that was my only concern about them going more rural, is like, What if it just starts to feel boring after a while? Whereas like a city always feels dense and immersive and exciting. But you know, I always enjoy what Hangar 13 puts together, so I'm sure it'll be great. But like that's only like lingering doubt in the back of my head, you know.
Backdrop. The first step for us was to make sure that we were nailing all of the things that players expect.
It's
from
a lot of
Mafia game.
open,
the quality
empty
of storytelling,
countryside.
how immersive it is, how authentic it is.
The Mafia
Previous Mafia
games.
games have been set in big American cities. We've taken the action and we've put our story in rural Sicily, in the
Bold
place where the
choice.
Mafia began.
You really feel like you're transported into another time. It feels
Origin
really unique
story.
and different, but yet really familiar. Players are really going to enjoy that aspect of it.
Our entry point for making these crime dramas is always the protagonist. We wanted to make sure that our main character, Enzo Favara, lives up to the standard which we've set in the past, and I hope in some ways even exceeds that.
All of the men in this room are bound by blood.
Enzo grows up in a sulfur mine. He's one of a bunch of children that are sold to the mine owners at this point in history in Sicily. Their life expectancy is short and they're essentially seen as disposable.
Enzo turns to crime as a means to make something of himself. The odds are stacked against him. So what does he do? He sees an opportunity for himself to gain some status, to gain some respect.
Do you wish to commit to this family?
I do.
Swearing the oath is the chance for him to finally be accepted. He's found a family. It's the thing he's been searching for his entire life, but it comes at a cost.
I think players are in for an emotional roller coaster. The high stakes of the Mafia life present opportunities for us as storytellers to take players and put players through the ringer, really, in terms of what happens to the character, what happens to them in the game.
You again.
What makes a really compelling gameplay experience is the mix of the high-intensity combat, cover play, cover shooting, set by these beautiful cinematics that make what you do in the combat so much more meaningful because you're fighting for something you really believe in.
Authenticity and immersion are key. And so we wanted to take that philosophy from the storytelling and make sure that it was consistent in the gameplay.
You know, whether you come for that core cover combat shooting experience or that white knuckle driving experience, we have that in Mafia: The Old Country.
It
But
looks
it's
so
unique.
There's some
good.
downbeats, there's some deep storytelling moments, and then there's some like high intensity action. And I think that's what makes Mafia missions and the general experience so interesting, is that we're constantly trying to change that roller coaster experience that you're on.
Enzo's proving himself with guns, and we wanted the combat to feel like there was a scarcity of resources, so you have to be more tactical in the way that you approach combat. The knife has been an integral part of gameplay. It's a part of Sicilian culture.
We wanted our gameplay to be immersive, to have a life or death kind of vibe. So when players are in a knife duel, when they're in a gunfight, they're genuinely fearing for their lives.
My flesh must burn like this saint if I do not keep my oath.
Bringing 1900 Sicily to life for us, it infuses every aspect of the development. It's about the characters, it's about the music, it's about the story, it's about the setting, it's about the vistas, it's about the vehicles, it's everything. It always starts with research, it always starts with immersing ourselves in the subject matter.
They
So
do
whether
a
that's
really good
reading
job
every
at that.
crime book around the Sicilian Mafia, watching all of the movies, even driving the cars, firing the weapons, and then translating that into the game, that's the development experience.
We even sent some folks out to Sicily. We were then able to take all of those experiences and try to translate it into an on-screen experience, but also a story. And those two things are woven together in a way that I think players are going to really enjoy.
Bravery is not common in this world, Enzo.
The Mafia that we see in Mafia: The Old Country is much different than the Mafia that we see in some of the other Mafia games. It's a time-honored tradition steeped in secrecy, and there's this sort of deep honor that we see within the Torrisi family and within the characters there.
The characters' relationships with each other, the way they behave, is very much influenced by that setting and that cultural difference.
This is a distinctive experience that I've never played before, and I'm sure that players are going to feel the same.
Mafia: The Old Country is our first Unreal 5 game in the studio, and it's particularly suited to the Sicilian setting.
We've really been able to push the boat out in terms of sort of the real tiny details on everything.
You know, one of the big ones for me is metahuman. You have characters that have really lifelike expressions, micro details. You know, many times when I'm watching the game, especially on a big screen in 4K, I start to forget that they're characters rendered in an engine. They just look like real characters in a movie. I think that's the level of immersion that we want, and it allows people, I think, to really suspend their disbelief and go along for the ride.
Enzo is beautifully rendered in the game, and I think he's one of the most compelling game characters we've seen for a long time.
The thing I'm most excited about for Mafia the Old Country is finally getting the game in players' hands.
The story pulls you through really quickly, and at the end, it takes your breath away, and it's one that you're not going to want to spoil for your friends.
The visuals and the storytelling are
That's cool.
absolutely next level.
Our setting's completely distinctive. Our story's completely unique. This is a game that you haven't played before. The best crime stories have unforgettable twists,
Old
and
words.
this game's no exception. Players are in for a treat.
Welcome, Enzo.
All right. I dig it. That's usually what the best sell can be, is it can be the developers talking themselves about the game. So let's go back. Let's look at the initiation trailer. Just
All of the
cinematics.
men in this room are bound by blood. This is a family. And in this family, we follow a code of honor. It is not forgiving. To betray one is to betray all. Do you wish to commit yourself, your life, to this family?
I do.
To become a man of honor, repeat these words.
I swear my loyalty to this family. My flesh must burn like this saint. If I do not keep my oath,
Welcome, Enzo.
It looks good. It looks good. It was originally slated for summer, but I think now it's August. All right. So this is the teaser. So this is like really early stuff. This is the last thing we really have to analyze here.
This thing of ours, it's a brotherhood. Treachery and deceit do not exist among us. Do you wish to commit yourself, your life, to this family?
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, we don't have a whole lot here to look at. And, you know, we sort of have this, you know, very ideal cuts of gameplay in these very short, like, minute-long trailers. But, like, it all looks good, and it looks like it's running really well. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I'll just kind of run this trailer in the background while I, you know, deliver some thoughts here. But yeah, I think I like everything visually. Unreal Engine 5 is obviously gorgeous. There's been a lot of games that we're starting to see recently. They're utilizing that engine, and a lot of games that are yet to come, like, you know, the new Halo, which is reportedly going to be Unreal Engine 5 as well. You know, Black Myth Wukong, notably one of the most gorgeous games, you know, Unreal Engine 5. But sometimes games' performance doesn't go so well, especially on PC. In Unreal Engine 5, it seems like there's often a lot of stuttering and stuff like that. But like the driving looks just right, like speeding along in these roadsters, you know, drifting, that kind of boat-like feel and sway that these old cars have, the fishtailing, you know, and then of course you've got the detail of the blood on his clothing from getting shot. You got the blind fire right there. You know, you have some of the environmental, you know, flare and destruction, stuff like that happening. So, I mean, it looks like we're kind of back to basics. I mean, I kind of feel like Mafia 3, as good as it was a bit of a sidestep, and it felt very weird and very different from what was previously done. And I felt like, yeah, the next game, like, we really need to go back to the Italian Mafia and what we think of when the words Mafia are said. You know, it's not usually about, you know, various other races and communities and other types of crime that exist, you know. I think Mafia has the distinct opportunity to be a period piece and really tell these authentic stories all throughout time. I mean, you could be early 1900s like this, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, like Mafia 2, and even the original Mafia game, which I think they did an amazing job with both the original back in '99 and even the remake of Mafia. So I think what this is going to do is it's going to tie itself into the franchise as the origin story for, you know, the series, and then where they go from there will actually be really pretty exciting, I think, hopefully. And I've always wanted Mafia games to go like full in on like the simulation. They've always had like you gotta drive to the gas station and fill up your car and all. You know, I enjoyed the police writing you a ticket, you know, just like all these various levels of crime. It wasn't just like GTA's wanted levels where the cops wanted to kill you. You know, there was the possibility of things like arrest or paying a fine, and, you know, your precious money that you're earning from jobs, whether it's in free roam or whether it's, you know, part of story mode, it gets in the way of your overall progress in the game. So I always wanted to, like, almost like how Scarface and the Godfather games, you know, were almost these like simulations of, you know, being a crime lord. I've kind of always wanted Mafia to take, you know, their strong narrative stories, but also combine that willingness to sort of like grind your way up the ranks through a criminal empire and really get to like role play what it's like to be in that world and just immerse yourself in the city or whatever the location is with all of this detail. And I like I said, the only worry I have is that Sicily is, you know, in this time period, there's not a lot of cities. You know, there might be some moments where we're running down alleys and jumping across rooftops or driving cars down narrow streets and stuff. But a lot of it is kind of those countryside and the villages and the farms and, you know, catacombs like this under churches and things, you know. So I just hope it's exciting enough and that it doesn't become dull like a lot of other games have been set in rural settings. That's my only concern, critique of the setting, but like I understand why the choice is made. Like, you can definitely do something really cool with this, and so I'm excited to see how it all plays out, and maybe even if we get like DLC for this game, because it's not unusual for some of the newer Mafia games to get DLC expansions that allow us to see different characters or expansions to the story. It could be really cool. So once again, I want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this reaction deep dive into Mafia the Old Country, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Until the next one, take care, be safe. Bye.